everyone, my name is Sharon of River Road Knits, and this is my teaser trailer for my new pattern, Tensia. If you've been on my channel before, you know I like to record these teaser trailers for new patterns. It's so that I can give you an idea of the pattern in action, the different quirks of the design. We'll talk about modifications and yarn choice, just to give you an idea of what the pattern's going to look like before you buy it. Getting right into it, first we'll talk about construction. This is a top-down sweater, which means that you're going to cast on at the neck, and you're going to increase until you get to the sleeve split, and then you're going to put the sleeve stitches on hold, knit the rest of the body, and then come back and knit the sleeves. Now, the yoke is a circular yoke with increases charted in the pattern. So this color work is going to be given in the form of a chart, which has the increases, so that by the time you're done with the chart, you've increased the number of stitches that you need. This sweater is also seamless, which means that there are no seams that you need to worry about. You'll be picking up stitches at the underarms, but other than that, everything is worked all as one piece. Now, I will walk you through a couple of the techniques that you'll need to know. One is color work chart reading, including increases. I'll have a tutorial in the pattern for you to follow along if you've never done that. And then the other item I will show you is in the back. A lot of sweaters like this will include short row shaping at the top of the neck, and that will cause the back of the sweater to lift up higher and cause you to have a better fit. So that's accomplished with short rows. The pattern is written with both German short rows and Japanese short rows. So German short rows are very common. I have started using Japanese short rows because I like them a lot, so I've given you instructions for both ways, so you don't need to worry about that. Now let's talk about some of the design elements. This is not really a technique per se, but you can see that this sweater includes some waist shaping, or maybe you can't see, but I've included waist shaping so that the waist dimension is slightly smaller than the full bust. But I've written it with hourglass waist shaping, and that means that your decreases, instead of being located at the side seams like you would normally see, they're located, set in both on the back and the front side. And what that means is that you get kind of an hourglass shape as a result. So after you decrease for the waist, you'll increase back out for the hips. Now we'll get to talk about the sizing that I've written for you. So this comes in 11 sizes with a finished bust of 35 inches up to 66¼ inches. So I've written it with a couple inches of ease. My model here is wearing it with about 4 inches of ease. She's wearing the second size. So I think that's a really wearable amount of ease. It looks flattering when it's on, but it's still comfortable and a little bit loose. But you can of course choose as much ease, as little, or as much as you would want. Let's talk about yarn and yarn choice for this pattern. So what I used was the Ferben Fiber Company Fortitude Base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's a fingering weight yarn. And the two colorways that I used, the blue is the colorway Destiny, the purple is the colorway Crocus. So that one is 100% superwash merino. In that base, you'll use anywhere, depending on your size, you'll use 3 to 6 skeins of the main color and 1 to 2 skeins of the contrast color. So that's going to vary depending on the yardage of the yarn that you choose, but that's about where you're going to be. In the description box below, I'm going to put exact yardages when the pattern goes live so that you can know exactly how much you'll need to buy. So what you might consider when you're buying yarn for this project. So as I said, I used 100% merino. You could use a merino nylon. You could certainly use an acrylic yarn. The properties that I would be looking for in a yarn, I would look for something with good stitch definition, because you want this color work to stand out. So anything that has too much of a fuzz, too much of a halo, may not be your best friend on this pattern. The other thing is to think about the colorways. So having a good contrast like I have here is going to make the color work pop. You can go for a low contrast if you would like, but the thing that's going to really make this have two very contrasting yarns. As you can see, the two yarns that I've chosen are kind of a tonal semi-solid. So the more variegation you get, the more difficult it will be to pick out the pattern. But my testers made some really amazing sweaters with gradient yarns as their contrast yarn, or just two very highly contrasting, slightly variegated yarns. So you can use your discretion when you're choosing this. Again, the color work is going to stand out best if you have mostly solid, high contrast yarns. And then you can play, if you want a little bit less of a striking color work, you can kind of play with more variegation in your yarn. That's up to you. So again, any sort of fingering weight yarn with good stitch definition that can kind of pop against one another, that's going to work really well for this pattern. Let's talk about modifications to the pattern that you might make when you're making your own sweater. Now, maybe waist shaping is not your thing, and that's really easy to change in this pattern. You would just ignore the decrease and increase instructions when you get to the waist shaping, and you would just continue straight through the body to the hem. Now, another change that you might make, you might vary the sleeve length. This is written as full length sleeves, but certainly you could make it a 3/4 length sleeve. You would just need to maybe adjust your stitch count so that you can do this color work pattern at the cuff. Now, you could also vary the length of the body. Again, this is kind of written as a not quite tunic length, definitely not cropped. It's kind of a full length and below your hips type of pattern, as I have it written. That's going to depend obviously on your size, your body type. But you can of course lengthen the body, you can shorten it. That's all fair game. Some testers opted to take this sleeve cuff color work pattern and apply it to the bottom hem of the garment. They just had to do a little bit of adjusting of stitch counts to make that work, but that's a really easy change that you can make if you want to bring some of that color work into the bottom hem. So with all these modifications, you have to keep in mind the fact that it's going to change your yardage. So keep that in mind when you're buying your yarn, when you're looking at the yardage that I have listed, that if you're going to want to adjust, shorten, lengthen, incorporate more color work, you're going to have to take that into account when you're figuring out the yardage that you'll need. So that's all for this teaser trailer. In the description box below, when the pattern goes live, I'll include links to Ravelry, to Etsy, to Love Crafts, where you can purchase the pattern. I'll also include links to Forbidden Fiber, which is the yarn that I used for this pattern, so you can check out their colorways as well if you want to use those. And happy knitting. I hope you enjoy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.